a quick little bit of housekeeping before we start. I am going to be away for a few weeks as it's just been Easter and I am having a break. So we're going to be back on the 11th of May, Sunday, the 11th of May. So expect a little bit of radio silence before we are back on the air. Right, let's get into the episode, shall we? Let's pretend something for a moment. Let's say the universe is a mistake. Not a tragic mistake, not a war, not an oil spill or a dirty bomb mistake. More like a typo in God's diary, a hiccup in the fabric of divinity. Let's say before atoms, before stars, before your morning coffee, there was just her, Sophia, wisdom. But not the kind you get from growing old, not the kind in Hallmark cards or philosophy degrees. Not even the kind the monks get after 60 years of staring at a wall and trying not to think about nipples. This Sophia, she's older than time. Not just old, primeval, archetype old. And she didn't just exist in the cosmos. She dreamed the cosmos. And she wasn't trying to. That's the thing, she wasn't trying to do anything. She just thought too hard. She reached for something she wasn't supposed to, like a child trying to see God through a keyhole. Like a philosopher asking questions no one has the clearance to answer. Like you wondering at 20 past 3 a.m. why any of this exists. And in that moment, that aching, stretching moment of divine yearning, something tore. She didn't create the world like some proud potter with perfect clay and a steady hand. She tripped on her own thought. And the world, this world, spilled out like blood from a head wound. That's what the Gnostics believed. That the universe was a side effect of consciousness, not its source, not its destination, just a side quest gone wrong. We like to tell ourselves this place is home, that it makes sense, that the flesh we're stuck inside, the gravity dragging our bones towards graves, the ticking clocks, the taxes, the heartbreak, all of it means something. We build religions to stitch it together, we build science to untangle the thread. But Sophia, she doesn't build, she remembers. And when she remembers too hard, reality bends. The Gnostics didn't care for easy truth. They believed the divine spark, whatever God was, isn't out there. It's in here, inside you, but sleeping. And maybe that's the worst part, that you're not a mistake. You're the dream of the dreamer who made the mistake. You're her last hope, her spark, her key. You're the part of her that might still wake up. This episode is about recursion, consciousness, the cosmic feedback loop we call reality. It's about Sophia, the eon, the feminine divine principle, the mind that thought too much and fell into herself. And it's about you, sitting there, earbuds in, commute, couch, treadmill, doesn't matter. You, the flicker, the whisper of thought wrapped in meat and story and time. We're going to tear open some sacred texts, yes, but not the kind bound in gold foil and old leather. The kind written in your spine, your DNA, the recursive code buried in your dreams. We're going to ask questions that don't have answers. Is the universe conscious? Are we the observers or the observed? What are these recursive loops, fractals of thought that repeat through time, through myth, through everything from neurons to nebulae? And if Sophia is still dreaming, how the fuck do we wake her up? But first, let's go back, way back. Before you were born, before humans, before time. Let's sit beside a being called Sophia. Let's watch her stretch her mind so far it breaks. Let's watch a universe tumble out of her like a fever dream, like a god on the edge of madness. Because that's where you came from. Not dirt, not stardust, dream.
835 feet.
The problem isn't that God doesn't exist. The problem is that he forgot who he was. And that forgetting, that blind idiot blink in eternity, that's where we begin. The word Gnosis means knowledge, but not the kind you learn in school. Not math, not grammar, not how to survive late-stage capitalism or how to file taxes in 3 different states. This knowledge is a wound. It's the kind of knowing that hurts because once you have it, you can't unknow it. It's the knowledge that the world you're trapped in isn't real, that it's a mask, a matrix, a con. The Gnostics weren't atheists. They weren't heretics. They were ancient hackers. They saw the code and they hated it. Let's set the scene. 1st and 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire in full swing. Philosophers are dying under emperor's boots, Christians getting eaten by lions. And somewhere in the rubble of empire, in the shadows of Alexandria and Antioch, a group of mystics are whispering to each other. What if the God of this world isn't the real God? What if this whole place is a trap? Enter Gnosticism. It wasn't a single religion, it was a web, a chaotic, defiant, secret-spilling virus of a belief system. No popes, no creeds, no nice Sunday sermons about loving thy neighbour and tithing your paycheck. This was theology with its teeth bared. They told a story, a cosmic backstory that makes Genesis look like a children's colouring book. At the very beginning, before light, before matter, before anything that could be called a thing, there was the monad. Not a god, not even a being really, more like a source, pure awareness, absolute stillness, the unknowable perfection behind all things. No gender, no form, no limits, just isness. From the monad emanated waves, ripples of consciousness. They weren't angels, not yet. They were aeons, divine emanations. Think of them as thoughts, pure archetypes unfolding outwards in pairs. Male and female, balance and echo, yin and yang, long before Taoism had a name. Among these aeons was one unlike the rest, Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom. And here's where the crack starts. Sophia did something unspeakable. She broke formation. She reached for the source, alone, without her consort. She wanted to know the monad, to touch the unknowable, to peer directly into the infinite. And like Icarus, like Eve, like every rebel mind that's ever wanted too much, she fell. But she didn't fall in space. She fell in consciousness. Her attempt to grasp the monad tore a hole in the perfect pleroma, the fullness of divine reality. And out of that rupture came a mistake, a being, a malformed, blind, arrogant imitation of divinity, Yaldabaoth, also known as Samael, also called Saklas, the demiurge, the architect of this world. He was power without wisdom, will without empathy, a child born of imbalance. And like all insecure tyrants, the first thing he did was lie. I am God, he declared, and there is no other God beside me. Think about that. The God of the Old Testament, the thunder and lightning, jealousy and wrath God. The Gnostics said, he's not the real God. He's the error, the glitch, the cosmic trauma baby. He created the material world as a prison, not out of love, not out of design, but out of ignorance. He didn't know where he came from. He didn't know that Sophia still watched from the shadows, weeping over her mistake. And you were born inside his lie, made of dust and breath, trapped in flesh and forgetting. The Gnostics believed the soul, the real you, wasn't meant for this place. You're a divine spark, a fragment of Sophia herself, buried alive in the nightmare of the demiurge. This world is not your home. It's a test pattern, a simulation, designed to keep you asleep. Now this is where things get dangerous, because Gnosticism doesn't offer salvation through belief, not through church, not through good deeds or holy books. It offers escape through awareness, through Gnosis, through the savage, soul-shattering realization that the God you've been worshipping might actually be your jailer. Wake up, they said, see the bars, remember the spark. This is why Orthodox Christianity hated the Gnostics. They weren't just wrong, they were offensive. Imagine telling a priest that Yahweh is a blind idiot God, that the Garden of Eden wasn't a paradise but a trap, that the serpent was the real hero, offering Gnosis, not sin, that Eve, in taking the fruit, wasn't disobeying, she was remembering. Now you're starting to feel it. The subversion, the recursion, the myth eating its own tail. Because Gnosticism isn't just a cosmology. It's a mirror that shows you two things at once. The world you think you know, and the deeper world beneath it. The dreamer, the source, the truth. And this truth isn't polite. It doesn't care about your rituals, your dogmas, or your social contracts. It tells you everything you see is a trick, a projection, a dream within a dream. The creator is not your father, he is the warden. You are not a sinner, you are asleep. That's where Sophia comes back in, not as a savior, but as a signal. She's the voice in the static, the anomaly in the code. The divine whisper behind your deepest question, the one that keeps you awake at 2 a.m. wondering if any of this means anything. Sophia is your memory of the source. She is the part of God that made a mistake, but never stopped trying to fix it. So next time someone tells you that God is watching, ask them which God. Because if you've ever felt like the world was wrong, like something essential is missing, like beauty is a ghost and meaning is always half a step out of reach, you might not be broken. You might be remembering. What happens when a god dreams too hard? Not prays, not meditates, but dreams. The way you dream when sleep becomes a whirlpool and your thoughts stop asking for permission. What happens when an idea doesn't stay an idea? When it slips out, tears the veil and becomes something else entirely. This is the part of the story when it all goes wrong. Sophia didn't set out to create anything. She wasn't like Yahweh carving mountains out of nothing with a snap of divine fingers. She wasn't like Brahma opening his cosmic mouth to breathe out universes. She didn't speak, she didn't act, she longed. She reached, not with hands but with will, for something she wasn't built to touch. The monad, the one, the absolute, the source of everything and the substance of nothing, the pure divine unknowability. She tried to grasp it, alone without her male counterpart. She broke the rules of divine symmetry. And what came next wasn't creation, it was a rupture, not a birth, a tear. And from that tear came him, the abortion of the aeons, the malformed child, the divine terror, Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the fake god, the blind king on a stolen throne. He was born alone, in darkness, in a pocket of reality severed from the pleroma, the fullness of divine light. He didn't know where he was, didn't know where he came from. All he knew was hunger, all he felt was power. And when you have power but no wisdom, you become a tyrant. I am God, Yaldabaoth said, and there is no other God beside me. That declaration, blunt, blasphemous, pathetic, echoed through the void. And in that moment, the Gnostics tell us, the mistake began to believe it was the truth. He started building, not in joy, not in love, not in the radiant overflow that birthed the aeons. He built out of ignorance, out of fear. And from that blind fever, this world, our world, was born. A cosmos cobbled together by a mad architect. Sky, earth, gravity, and pain. The ticking clock, the gnawing hunger, the heartbreak built into every goodbye. All of it. Yaldabaoth made archons, lesser spirits, cosmic administrators, bureaucrats of illusion. They helped him maintain the illusion that this world is it, that nothing exists beyond the skin of matter. He couldn't see the light. He didn't want to, because seeing the light would mean knowing he came from something else, that he was not the source. And that kind of knowing would unravel him. So he buried it. He covered it with planets, laws of physics, religious doctrines, 9-to-5 jobs, politics, gender wars, blue-check status hierarchies, and a million distractions designed to keep you from remembering. And what about Sophia? What happens to the dreamer when her dream births a nightmare? She didn't die, she fell, down into the realm her own error had carved. She became trapped in her own echo, part of her exiled into the cosmos, fragmented, scattered. Her divine essence splintered into countless souls. And that's the part the Gnostics cared about most. Because one of those fragments is you. You are not the child of dust. You are the forgotten spark of the dreaming goddess. You are the memory of perfection wrapped in flesh and bone and decay. Your ache, your existential dread, that sense that something's wrong, that you're not home, that the world is too sharp, too small, too loud, and too stupid. That's not anxiety, and it's not depression. That's the memory waking up in you. It's the part of you that remembers the light before the veil. The part of you that knows the stars aren't just balls of gas, they're hints, breadcrumbs, signals from Sophia. She's still dreaming, and through you, she's trying to wake up. That's the punchline, the horror, the hope. You are not just in a dream, you are the dream. You are the dreamer dreaming herself, trapped inside the dream she didn't mean to have, searching for a way to become whole again. This world, this broken, bloody, beautiful simulation, it isn't the original. It's a trauma echo, a world built from a wound, a womb of suffering giving birth to awareness. And what does that say about human existence? That we're not here to win. We're not here to dominate, to accumulate, to perfect our abs or optimize our calendars or turn our lives into LinkedIn portfolios. We're here to remember. We are the self-correcting software patch of the cosmos, the divine bug fix, the lucid dream inside the fever dream glitching toward godhood. Every act of love, of creation, of clarity. Every time you look at the world and whisper, this can't be all there is, you're feeding the signal. You're making Sophia stir in her sleep. And if she wakes up, if you wake up, maybe this fractured world can heal. But healing isn't easy. It means facing the wound. Not ignoring it, not numbing it, not wrapping it in self-help affirmations and Instagrammed enlightenment. It means sitting inside the wound. It means being the dream and still trying to wake yourself up. So here you are, one spark, one echo, one lost god in a body made of memory and meat. This world is not your home, it is your reflection. And somewhere beneath the noise, Sophia is still whispering. Here's the problem with waking up. Once you see the dream for what it is, you can't fall back asleep. Not all the way, not ever again. Your job, your personality, your 5-year plan, your therapist-approved boundaries and bullet journal routines, they start to shimmer at the edges, like heat waves on asphalt, like static over something buried deep in the transmission. And that's because consciousness isn't yours. It never was. In the Gnostic model, you don't own your thoughts. They don't bubble up from your brain like steam off coffee. They're not the product of neurons firing in meat. They're remnants, signal fragments, echoes from a time before time. Consciousness isn't inside you. You are inside it. This isn't metaphor. This is the core of Gnostic thought. That what you experience as you, this string of sensations, preferences, fears, and late-night existential monologues, is just a flicker of Sophia trying to wake up inside the machinery of the demiurge. You are a ghost, a whisper, a divine splinter stuck inside a bad copy of reality. Remember Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the counterfeit god? He didn't just build the world, he built a system of perception, a feedback loop, a psychic meat grinder designed to keep your awareness from realizing what it really is. Think about it. You're born, you're named, you're taught rules, scripts, roles, and expectations. You're told what success looks like, what failure feels like, what love is supposed to mean. And all the while, the spark inside you, Sophia's spark, is screaming into a padded room, sedated by language, by logic, by Netflix, by trauma, and by hope. In the Gnostic vision, this isn't just a tragedy, it's the tragedy. The primal wound of being trapped in a dream you didn't consent to. Now let's talk about the observer. Every mystic tradition eventually finds itself here, staring into the same paradox. Who is watching? Because no matter how deep you dig, how many layers of ego you peel back, how many childhood patterns you unpack in therapy, there's always something underneath, just watching. The Buddhists called it the witness. The Advaita Vedantins call it the self. Neuroscience calls it a cognitive illusion. The Gnostics, they called it the spark. The watcher doesn't think in language. It doesn't have opinions. It doesn't care who you're dating or how many likes your last post got or how fast your startup is scaling. It sees. That's all. It is the fragment of Sophia inside you, still lucid, still quietly aware that this whole thing is a dream gone sideways. Now you can't tell if you're the observer or the thing being observed. And the longer you stare into that tension, the more it starts to bend. You are the camera and the film, the echo and the voice, the question and the thing asking. You are consciousness having a schizophrenic break inside a meat puppet on a dying planet, spinning through a dream forged by a god who doesn't know he's not real. So what do you do with that? You can try to ignore it. Most people do. You bury it under routine, religion, Instagram reels, overpriced spirituality, and a nice solid mortgage. Or you can listen. You can pay attention to the cracks, the glitches, the moments when reality doesn't quite add up, that strange deja vu, that dream that felt more real than waking life, that feeling that your life is being watched but not by anyone you can see. That's not paranoia, that's contact. That's the spark recognizing itself. In the Gnostic model, awakening doesn't come from worship, it comes from remembering. Remembering that the world isn't real in the way we've been told. Remembering that the God of this world is not the source of life, but the warden of a prison made from atoms and laws and Sunday school morality. And consciousness is the jailbreak. Every moment you are aware of being aware, you are chipping at the walls. This is why consciousness hurts, because it's a mismatch. Your divine awareness crammed into a flesh suit designed by a mad god. Your body's job is to obey gravity, to decay, to reproduce and die, and to serve the system. But your spark, its job is to remember the original light, to whisper the myth back to itself, to say in defiance of everything, I am not this cage. And here's where the recursion starts. Sophia dreams Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth dreams the world dreams humans. Humans begin to dream of God, and the loop begins to tighten, until one of those humans, maybe you, starts to remember the dreamer. And then the dream starts to unravel. Because consciousness is a virus, a holy one. Once it enters the system, it replicates. It spreads through perception, art, grief, joy, silence, psychedelics, poetry, and madness. And the more it spreads, the more cracks appear in this false world. And through those cracks, the light of the pleroma, the memory of what was before the wound, the unbroken awareness from which we all fell. That's what it means to be the observer trapped in the dream. You are not here to conquer, you are not here to ascend, you are here to see through it. And seeing isn't passive, seeing is war. Because every time you remember you're dreaming, the system loses power, Yaldabaoth loses control, and Sophia stirs in her sleep. So the next time you find yourself staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night, heart hammering, brain spinning, soul leaking out the edges of your skin, don't panic. You're not broken. You're waking up. Let's say you're walking alone late at night. No noise, no flashlight. Just your breath and the sky like a hole in the ceiling of the world. You stop, you look up. And suddenly this feeling, it's watching you. Not like a person, not like a predator. More like the fabric of things has turned its head slightly. That weird vertigo like reality just blinked. And behind it, something was awake. Now hold on to that feeling. That soft panic, that impossible intuition. Because that's where we're going. The Gnostics had a name for that feeling. They called it the memory. Not your memory, the universe's. This is the part where we talk about the possibility that the cosmos, the whole fucking show, isn't dead matter spinning through blind laws of physics, but something else entirely. A mind, a dream, an intelligence so vast, so distributed, so recursive that it doesn't need a skull to think inside. The question isn't just, is the universe conscious? The question is, what if it always has been? Now let's pull a few threads. Science says the universe is made of particles, of energy, of forces, and of fields. It behaves with eerie precision. Mathematics governs galaxies just like it governs subatomic particles. But why should numbers map onto reality? Why does the cosmos seem to run on logic? Why can we describe it in symbols that mean something? Meaning isn't random. Meaning is a function of mind. What if the universe doesn't obey math because math is real? What if math is real because the universe is aware? This brings us into one of the oldest, weirdest ideas still kicking around under different names. Panpsychism, the belief that consciousness is not produced by matter, but is embedded in it. Everywhere, in every atom, in every quark, in every field, even in space itself. You've heard the phrase, the universe observing itself. But what if that's not a poetic metaphor? What if that's a literal description? Now go back to Gnosticism, to Sophia, to her fall, her rupture, her dream. When she broke the divine symmetry and fell into fragmentation, she scattered pieces of her awareness into the system. Each soul, each moment of awareness, a neuron, and the cosmos, not just a prison, not just a dream, but a brain. A distributed neural network built from matter, time, sensation, suffering, awe, gravity, and entropy. A mind trying to remember itself. You are not a person in the universe. You are a firing synapse in the dreaming skull of Sophia. Now let's get recursive. You dream. Inside your dream, there are people. Those people talk, they think, they suffer, they feel real. Now imagine a being dreaming a dream so vast, so layered, so persistent that the dream doesn't fade when she forgets it. Instead, it becomes self-sustaining. Sophia fell. She dreamed. The dream took root. It sprouted systems, laws, organisms. Some of those organisms became us. And now, we dream of gods. You see the loop? The mind dreaming the world dreaming minds, the minds dreaming gods, the gods dreaming back. A snake swallowing its tail, Ouroboros as operating system. But here's the catch. If the universe is conscious, what kind of consciousness are we talking about? Because it's not human, not warm or cuddly or comforting. It might not even be benevolent. It might be pure awareness, unfiltered. A horror show of infinite perception, watching suns die and microbes breed with equal detachment. Or maybe it's just confused. Maybe Sophia's fall fractured the universal mind and now the dream is glitching. The stars don't scream because they're dead, they scream because they're trying to wake her up. Maybe every nova is a jolt to the system. Maybe every kiss, every betrayal, every poem, every thought is the universe tapping its own shoulder saying, hey, remember, let's throw another wrench into the gears. Quantum mechanics. You know this one, the observer effect. The idea that observing a particle changes its behavior. But what if that's not just a quirk of physics? What if it's a clue? What if the act of attention is a sacred transaction? Consciousness interacting with consciousness. You watch the particle feels you watching. That's not science fiction, that's physics with a black eye and a bottle of whiskey muttering nothing is real unless you look at it. This brings us back to the Gnostic idea of perception as liberation. The more you see, the more you remember. And the more you remember, the more the dream destabilizes. Because the dreamer is waking up through you. You don't live in a conscious universe. You are the conscious universe living inside a dream of separation, trying to snap out of it. So maybe it's not about gods or rituals or enlightenment or beating the algorithm. Maybe it's about this. Sitting still, feeling the weirdness of being, remembering that you were never separate from the stars, that your brain is made of stardust and your dreams run on the same equations as supernova. And maybe, when you're quiet enough, when you listen long enough, you hear it, that low hum, that old signal, that divine static from the first moment of thought, and it says, I remember you. This is where it gets dangerous. You followed the myth, the memory, the bleeding trail of Sophia's dream. You've seen the counterfeit god and the sleeping spark and the dreamer trapped inside her own creation. But now we get to the pattern, the loop, the thing that keeps happening even when we try to forget it. There's something wrong with the world. You felt it. In deja vu, in coincidence, in prophecy and palindromes. In the way trauma repeats across generations as if pain has a template, as if suffering isn't just random but rhythmic. The universe doesn't just expand, it repeats, over and over. Sophia falls, the demiurge rises, the world is born, a spark remembers, and the whole thing starts again. This is recursion, a pattern that references itself. It's the infinite staircase, the Russian doll, the snake eating its own tail, the dream dreaming a dream of the dream. It's every moment that feels like it's already happened, every myth that mirrors another, every symbol that shows up in every culture dressed in different robes but saying the same thing. This has all happened before. This will all happen again. But why? Why would the cosmos be built like this? The Gnostics had an answer. Because it was never finished. Sophia's fall didn't just cause the world, it patterned it. like a blueprint made from broken glass, like a song that skips, but the skip becomes part of the melody. Now let's talk fractals. Fractals are patterns that repeat at every scale. Zoom in on a snowflake, on a fern, on the veins in your hand, on the neural pathways in your skull. What do you see? The same shape, the same self-replicating geometry, form mirroring form. It's not just beautiful, it's deeply eerie, because it suggests design, not necessarily intention, just repetition, a structure dreaming itself over and over again. Now look at time, look at myth, look at every story humans tell. A hero rises, a shadow appears, there's a fall, a loss, a return. Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey. The Gnostics called it something else. The return to the pleroma, the reassembly of divine memory. It's recursive storytelling, not just metaphor, it's architecture, because every soul follows that loop, not once, but in cycles. Birth, forget, suffer, remember, wake. Then do it again, and again, until maybe something breaks the loop. But recursion isn't just cosmic, it's personal. Think about your own life, the relationships that echo each other, the jobs that feel like reruns, the internal monologue that plays on loop when you're falling asleep. Why do the same wounds keep open? Because you're not healing linearly, you're healing cyclically. Sophia's dream didn't break into shards, it broke into patterns. And each soul, each you, each me, is one of those patterns playing out in 4 dimensions. Now let's really go down the rabbit hole. What if trauma itself is a fractal? Not a moment, not an event, but a recursive loop coded into consciousness. What if every abuse, every war, every betrayal is a copy of a divine misstep? Sophia reaching, falling, breaking, repeating. Her wound becomes your wound, and your wound keeps replicating. Because until the pattern is seen, it repeats. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But the Gnostics were already there. They just said, you are inside a dream that keeps looping until you remember where it came from. This is why recursion matters, because the pattern isn't the problem, the forgetting is. The loops aren't evil, they're breadcrumbs, and if you follow them deep enough, they lead back to the source. The pain you feel today might be a rerun of the pain Sophia felt the moment she fell. Your longing might be her echo, your insomnia, her cosmic restlessness. Now ask yourself, why do mandalas appear in every culture? Why do people see spirals on mushrooms and call them God? Why does Fibonacci show up in pine cones and hurricanes in the shape of your ear? Because the world was born from a recursive act. A thought that thought itself into existence, a dream that refused to end. The divine mistake didn't stop at creation, it embedded itself into everything. A holy glitch hiding in plain sight. And here's where it turns. If you become aware of the pattern, if you see the loop, like really see it, you can interrupt it. Not destroy it, not escape it, but wake up inside it. Lucid dreaming and a fractal reality. That's what the Gnostics were after. Not salvation, recognition. Not escape, integration. To look at the fractal and remember, this shape is me. So when you see the same struggle showing up again and again, don't despair. Zoom out. Notice the geometry. Track the rhythm. Listen for the loop. Because inside that loop is the key. Inside that key is memory. And inside that memory is a voice that says, you've been here before, but this time you're awake. So what now? You've followed Sophia through her fall, you've seen the counterfeit world, you've stared into the recursive pattern looping through the flesh of your life, that distant, low-frequency panic we mistake for anxiety, the quiet knowing that something is off, that something deep is wrong. And now you know, you weren't broken, you were remembering. So now the question isn't what happened, it's what now. Here's the problem, you're still here, still trapped in the system, still living in a body designed to forget, still walking through a world that runs on illusion and inertia. You don't get to leave, don't get to float off into bliss. You are not getting raptured. You are not ascending into light. You stay because Sophia stayed. She stayed inside her dream, inside the world her longing fractured. And if she didn't leave, neither do you. This is the existential fallout. This is where it gets real. Because waking up doesn't feel like enlightenment. It feels like grief. It's the grief of knowing that everything you built, your ego, your identity, your story, was scaffolding around a prison. It's the grief of knowing that no one's coming to save you. No God, no guru, no spiritual influencer with white robes and better lighting than you'll ever have. Just you and the hum and the myth. Gnosis is not a happy ending. It's not a climax. It's not a light switch that flips on and suddenly everything makes sense. It's a slow dissolve, a rot, a gentle scream that starts in the bones and never really stops. Because once you know that you're inside a full system, everything becomes a choice. And choice is terrifying. Before, you had scripts, roles, the rules of the dream. Now, you have freedom. And nothing is heavier than freedom. You'll try to go back. You'll reach for comfort, for the story, for the illusion of meaning baked into capitalism or religion or routine. You'll want to forget again. Because awakening isn't pleasurable. It's annihilation. It's watching your reflection glitch. It's seeing through the smile of someone you love and realizing neither of you are fully here. It's holding your life in your hands and knowing it's made of smoke. And yet, this is where the Gnostics give us something that isn't hope, but it is something. A whisper, a thread, a flame in the static. If you are inside a broken world, then everything you do here matters more than you think. Not because it earns you points, and not because it gets you closer to God, but because it echoes. Every act of love, every moment of clarity, every time you remember who you are, you fracture the illusion. You make the veil thinner. You become a glitch in the system, and the system fears the glitch. Yaldabaoth's whole game, the demiurge's only weapon, is ignorance. He built the world to keep you asleep. So when you choose to stay awake, even in pain, even in confusion, you are committing cosmic rebellion. You are doing what Sophia couldn't finish. You're turning the mistake into something holy. So what does this mean for how we live? It means we stop pretending. We stop pretending this world is fine, that happiness is the goal, that success is our salvation. We stop pretending the systems that raised us deserve our faith. We begin to act like what we do matters, because it does. In a system built on forgetting, to remember is sacred. So maybe you become quieter, more present, not because it's trendy, not because of mindfulness apps or productivity hacks, but because attention is the currency of the divine. When you pay attention, you are Sophia watching herself. You are God looking into the wound and not looking away. That's what redemption means in the Gnostic sense. Not forgiveness, remembrance. Maybe you love differently now, not because love saves you, but because love cracks the illusion. When you touch someone without wanting to own them, when you see someone without trying to fix them, you're not just being kind, you're lighting a signal. You're sending out a flare that says, I remember you, we're still here, the dream isn't over yet. Yes, it hurts, but the pain is proof that you're still dreaming, still stitched into Sophia's longing. You carry her ache, her reach, her unfinished thought, and your life, it becomes the punctuation mark on that sentence. Not the period, not the ending, but maybe the comma, a pause, a breath, a moment of awareness before the next cycle begins. So don't look for answers, they are not coming. Look for patterns, look for the echo, look for the signal inside the noise. And when you find it, when it hums in your bones and burns behind your eyelids and makes the air shimmer like everything's just a little too real, follow it. It's her, it's you, it's the part of the dream that's still trying to wake up. You've traced the arc. You've followed Sophia down the spiral. You've seen the world for what it might be, not a creation, but a mistake. Not a paradise, but a recursive dream trying to wake itself. You've held the divine spark, watched it flicker inside your ribs like a lost signal. You've remembered, if only for a moment, that you are not just watching this world, you are the world watching itself. And now comes the question no myth ever really answers. Can we truly wake up? Let's sit with that. Not skim past it, not solve it. Let's sit in it like a bath that's just a little too cold. Let's feel it. You sitting there hearing this, thinking thoughts that don't feel like yours. Observing. That's the word we've circled from the beginning. Observer. The eye behind the eye. The one that notices the noticing. The self inside the self. And here's the trap. You can't find the observer. Not like a thing, not like a person. Because the moment you say there it is, the observer becomes the observed. It flips, it folds. You're the watcher, then suddenly you're being watched. By what? By you? By the dream? By Sophia? By the God you thought didn't exist? Who's watching her? This is the observer's dilemma. Not a paradox to be solved, but a riddle to drown in. Because here's what you'll find if you go deep enough. Every time you think you've reached the edge of yourself, you'll find another mirror. Every time you believe you're awake, you realize it's just a deeper layer of the dream. You open your eyes inside the dream, and the dream says, "Welcome, we've been expecting you." So let's stop pretending that awakening is a destination. It's not enlightenment. It's not a golden throne at the center of the maze. It's not a final realization that unlocks the universe like some sacred cheat code. It's more like a glitch, a rip in the pattern, a moment where the loop stutters and you notice. Not forever and not perfectly, but just long enough to realize you were sleepwalking. And that is the cruel truth. Waking up doesn't mean staying awake. Consciousness is slippery. Awareness is recursive. The observer always dissolves the moment it's seen. You know this already. Think of a time when you were completely present. Not thinking about the past, not calculating the future, just there. Maybe staring at the ocean. Maybe listening to music that cracked your heart open like an egg. And then you notice it. You say, "Wow, I'm really present right now." And just like that, you're not. Observation collapses the moment it becomes self-aware. That's the dilemma. And yet it's the only door we have. In Gnostic thought, salvation doesn't come from dogma. It comes from Gnosis, direct knowledge. But Gnosis isn't a one-time download. It's a heartbeat, a flicker, a memory that comes and goes like waves licking the shore. So maybe waking up isn't about escaping the dream. Maybe it's about remembering you're dreaming as often as you can, and then acting like it matters. You see, the observer isn't here to control. The observer is here to see. To look at this mad, recursive, counterfeit world and say, "Yes, I see you, and I will not forget again." Even if you do, even if you have to wake up 1,000 times a day, each moment of awareness, however brief, fractures the dream. It creates space, and in that space, Sophia breathed. This isn't self-help. It isn't positive thinking. This is the sacred violence of awareness. This is the act of looking at the system and seeing through it. The act of looking at yourself and saying, "I am not my thoughts. I am the one watching the thoughts." And then watching that too. And then watching that. Until there's nothing left but the watching. And here's the final twist. You never get to stay there. You always fall back into form. Back into the body, back into the... And that's okay. Because waking up once is enough to know it's possible. And once you know it's possible, you can start choosing different. You can love more fiercely, not as distraction, but as defiance. You can suffer more consciously, not to wallow, but to witness. You can move through the world, not like someone who's above it, but like someone who remembers where the cracks are. You are the glitch, the holy malfunction, the spark that won't go out. And no matter how many times the system tries to bury you in forgetting, you'll remember. So, can we ever truly wake up? No. And yes. Not fully, not forever, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is to remember just long enough to pass it on, to be a torch, a flare, a single trembling note in a song that's trying to remember itself. So here we are, back where we started. Or maybe not back, maybe just deeper. Maybe this is the same place we began, but now we can see the pattern in the wallpaper, the glitch in the geometry. We've wandered through the ruins of Gnosticism. We've stood beneath the broken scaffolding of creation and watched the pieces drift, repeating themselves like dreams you can't quite shake. We've seen Sophia fall, not out of evil and not out of pride, but out of longing, out of curiosity, a divine hunger to know what was never meant to be known. And from that fall, a god was born. Not a god of grace or wisdom, but a blind, arrogant thing claiming to be the only voice in the room. The architect of illusion, the demiurge, the god of this world. We've stared into that world, this world, and asked ourselves what it means to be human in a cosmos not built for our joy, but for our forgetting. A world made of recursion, loops, and fractal, pain patterns repeating across generations, trauma like sacred math. Everything echoing Sophia's first mistake. But if the mistake was divine, then maybe so is the echo. We talked about consciousness, about the spark in you, the silent observer behind your eyes, the one that watches without judgment, without voice, and without end. We talked about the impossibility of locating the observer, because every time you look for it, you become the thing being seen. And so we live in the paradox. Are we the dreamers or the dream? Are we watching the universe or is it watching us? And the only honest answer might be yes. We wondered if the universe is conscious, not metaphorically, but literally, as in breathing, pulsing, and dreaming. If Sophia's mind shattered into reality and we are fragments of her awareness trying to remember what it means to be whole, then every act of awakening, every breath of clarity, every time you remember that your job isn't your purpose, your pain isn't your punishment, and your story isn't your soul, that's her, that's you. That's the dream starting to dream backward toward the source. And we face the fallout, the burn of remembering, the act of waking up inside a world that wants you to stay asleep, to obey, to forget. We realize that knowledge doesn't always liberate. Sometimes it haunts, sometimes it isolates, but sometimes it cracks the wall just enough for the light to get in. And maybe that's the point. You don't wake up all at once. You don't step out of the dream and into heaven. You glitch, you flicker, you notice. And that's enough, because noticing is sacred. Attention is holy. And consciousness is the only rebellion the system can't contain. So what does all of this mean for us? Maybe it means we live different. Maybe not louder or faster or purer, but truer. With eyes open to the architecture of illusion, with ears tuned to the hum of the source behind the static. Maybe it means we stop treating the world like something solid and start treating it like a question, a living, dreaming question. The dream isn't just a problem, it's also the path. And you listening to this, thinking these thoughts, feeling your ribcage rise and fall like tides, you are the observer caught in the loop. But you're also the loop itself. And the only real choice you ever had was whether to notice it. That's the fire behind Gnosticism. That's the purpose of Sophia's dream. Not salvation, not escape, but remembering. Because when you remember who you are, when you trace the spark back to its source, even for a moment, the dream changes. It becomes lucid. It becomes yours. It becomes a bridge. And maybe that's the beginning of waking up. This was Sophia's dream. A mistake, a memory, a mirror, a maze. And now, it's yours. Thank you for joining me on this little philosophical expedition today. You know that I deeply appreciate your presence and your attention. And if you found anything in this episode useful, or you think that someone else might find it interesting as well, then please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Here comes that hideous marketing bullshit, because we have to do this, unfortunately. But we are on social media, as much as I loathe those platforms. You can find us on Instagram, on X, and on TikTok with the handle @TheObservingEye. We're on YouTube, where you can go and watch our videos, which is youtube.com/@TheObservingEye. And we've also got a beautiful website on Substack, which is theobservingeye.com. So all of those platforms, you can go and chat to us and engage and comment and all of the usual things that you can do with these social spaces. I've also got an email, which I'm not entirely sure is a good idea, but you can email me at david@theobservingeye.com with your questions or suggestions or anything you want to get off your chest about philosophy. Not therapy, I can't be your therapist, but I'm happy to field philosophical questions and existential horrors. That's all good. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, which is normally within a day or so. Thanks everybody, take care, much love, and I'll catch you soon.